Welcome to another episode of Three Aficionados. I'm one of your three hosts here, Steve Yip, and we've got Peter Pitton and Daniel Ross on the mic or on the random Zoom video here. We talk about all things analog, cars, watches, and inappropriate drawings of Burning Men on Peter's whiteboard or whatever he can fit on there. So with that, let's get into it. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about everything. A little overdue news with watches, a little Oris Pointer 403, a little bit of news there, a little bit of new news about Porsche's GTA Vision concept. And some updates from the watch collections and the car collections and a lot of other Christmas wish lists. So what are we sporting here today? We're going to pop off the alcohol before we pop off the watches. Here we have a bottle of Kirkland Brunello di Montalcino, which matches the Ferrari shirt for those who are not listening to the podcast. But I'm going to pop off the cork. You guys can pop off your cans there.
A guy in a Ferrari t-shirt is totally drinking wine that's from Costco.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. I'm not going to drink straight from the bottle. I'm not a barbarian.
Why not?
We just. What are you guys drinking tonight?
I'll be drinking this Leffa if I can get the bottle open.
Oh, nice.
The struggles.
Your bottle opening timing is definitely not on point most of the time. I just buy a 4 or 6 pack of Leffa. But Peter, what are you holding up there?
I'm doing the same as last week. The Wild Rose Raspberry there. So good. I bought a 4-pack and I've still basically been drinking one every episode, and that's been about the extent of it. So
you're so well moderated.
Yeah.
This bottle has just been cracked yesterday and it will be gone tonight.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't blame you. I had my fun last night too.
Nice.
Two of us are gentlemen and drink infrequently. The other one is in a Ferrari t-shirt drinking Kirkland wine.
The other one has a problem. But the other one is not speaking from the inside of a burlap sack, and the other guy who is also on this video, who is not me, has his pants slung over the whiteboard. What's going on with the whiteboard there, Peter?
Yeah, that's a little bit. I didn't really think about that. Sorry, boys. Not the prettiest in the world, but we got our for everyone who's curious, the vital signs are on the whiteboard there for practice sake. So it was
very nice.
On my exam the other day. So, but no,
let's go through them.
Yeah.
We got pulse, resp, BP, bugle, which would be blood glucose, I assume. Temp.
Yeah.
Sun.
Skin. It's just my very bad writing.
Skin. Ashy.
Your SPO2, and then your end title, and your GCS, and then your 4-lead and your 12-lead.
No, that's good. Good. And of course, your dirty mustache. That is part of every man's vitals that I always want to hear about Peter's vitals. All right. That's a little too, well, we won't go down that route. We've talked a little bit about Peter's and my intricate relationship as friends and as patient physician. And my wife reminds me to provide the disclaimer that my views do not reflect that of Alberta Health Services. I'm a physician, but I am mostly drinking. So most of the time this is uncensored and it is my own personal dipshit views. So Daniel, what's on the wrist?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm still waiting on a couple watches to come back. So I've still got my classic chronograph on.
That's the BMW?
Yeah, it's my BMW chronograph.
What strap
just
is it?
Holding that up to the camera. It's on this black leather strap. It's actually it's one of the worst straps I've ever owned. It's an aftermarket strap I bought years ago. And I just mashed up the original bracelet that this came on so badly, but I needed something different. So
well,
at some point I'll probably update that.
It looks good in the low quality, transmission that we're getting through Zoom.
Well, actually, it looks good. It just doesn't feel very good.
It feels not so good.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to rub it some more. Give it some patina.
Dina.
Patina. Got to chafe that. If you
Let's give
rub it
Peter a hard
against,
time. Let's give him a hard time instead.
if you rub it against your facial hair, I feel like it would, give it that good bristling.
Yeah.
Rub my watch against my face more. Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that what
that's how I
everyone
do.
does?
What's that?
I think
Isn't that
so.
what everyone does there? There's a dramatic pause happening right now on Daniel's face
Very
for those who are tuning into the podcast.
You sound like closed captioning right now. It's like a long pause has commenced.
A long pause has commenced as we are not clear as to whether Daniel's internet has slowed down, he has taken too long a bong hit, or he is contemplating how stupid Steve's question was. Peter, what's on the wrist?
Well, I got two to show off tonight. I had two surprises when I got home this weekend. One I knew about and one I didn't know about, which is kind of cool. But number one, the knowing one, is finally I got my Waterbury. The little wrist action. I'm telling you, it's actually, I like it a lot. It didn't take me long to enjoy it, but I'm a big fan of it. I think it's cool. It looks really good. It's a nice size, I find. I like the strap too. Yeah, there's not really much I can't say that's like bad about it. I'm a big fan of the dial. Unfortunately, like I don't find any, like maybe the photos on Hodinkee pick it up a little bit, but the dial's got like this almost like kind of like slate, or like I don't know really how to describe the finish, but it's not smooth. Like it's bumpy kind of thing.
It's pebbled.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
It's like an areola, a fine areola.
Yeah.
A little
Like on the like on IWC, how they have their kind of like what is it, an iron dial that they use, and it creates that textured surface?
Yeah, it would be.
Is it like that at all?
I think it's actually when you drag it right across a half Jewish gentleman's facial beard, and I'm speaking about Daniel, who is a half Jewish, and he's talking about his Jewish heritage in the context of Hanukkah and how it contributes to the wonderful dials that Timex makes.
That's there's a lot of coordinate. Yeah, it works. The correlation is strong.
High correlation. Very nice. I'm sporting mine. I'm popping up in the corner window, just showing my Waterbury in solidarity, since I knew that Peter has just received his. So I'm glad that we could share our enjoyable purchase of the Hodinkee Waterbury Timex. I'm wearing it on the right wrist, which is the wrong wrist, for me at least. I still really like it. I actually tried to give it to my wife, Laura, and she was like, the lugs, they go on a small wrist. It was interesting. I never noticed it for myself, but the lugs are quite long. So on a small wrist, they really are prominent and stick out. And she actually likes big watches, but it's really pushing out for her. What do you think? Does it match you pretty well there, Peter?
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. I haven't had a watch specifically as to this coloration yet, and I like it. It's nice. It's got I think when I put it on, I really just felt like it was super comfortable. Like just felt like it felt proper on the wrist kind of thing. I'm not a huge leather strap fan, but this is pretty not bad, I would say, for what it comes with. It's comfortable. It's got a nice feeling to it. It doesn't pull on anything. I'm honestly, I like the Q, but I don't know. I think this one may take the cake for me personally, but we'll see. I haven't had it long enough yet, so it's hard to say.
Interesting. This one pulls less hairs than the.
That's the thing. That's what I mean. Like it's actually comfortable to wear.
Yeah, and for those who haven't seen the video, Peter is definitely the hairiest of the bunch here. It's definitely hair that needs to be preserved here and not being ripped out of his own forearm. But the watch that I'm wearing on the right wrist, which is the left wrist, is the Hulk, the 116610 LV. ceramic green bezel, but also the green dial that you just don't get anymore. And it just is so unique. I saw it like in the safety deposit box when I thought I was actually going to pick up the Kermit, and I was like, nah, I'm going for this one. This is just, I don't know, it always catches my attention of all the green watches. And as much as I say that the Kermit really speaks to me the most because it has one toe in the vintage world and one toe in the modern world, I feel like this is the watch that really, out of the three, I wouldn't let go of now at this point. Although it's got its drawbacks because it's got the big lugs and it's got a large case and it kind of flops around on my wrist. It's just, they're never going to make it like this now, especially that we've got the Cermet. I love it, but it's fun to flop back and forth between all three. I'm in a very privileged position, and we'll maybe chat about how maybe I need to streamline shit in the upcoming discussion of what's coming in the future. With that, why don't we get into the watch news? I won't completely blow that one out of the water, and I think Daniel's going to discuss, because I haven't really done a deep dive as much as Daniel into the Oris Pointer 403. What was it? 40? I'm just going to put it up on the screen. You can talk about it there, Daniel.
Yeah, the new Oris Big Crown pointer date that they've just come out with. It's significantly different from the other Big Crown in the same line, and it's also quite different from the last generation as well. So it's got the new in-house 403 movement, gives 5 days power reserve. It's an interesting looking movement. I don't think it's the most beautiful thing in the world, but I think that it definitely has its own kind of appeal. I like it. I think that they've done a nice job bringing it in at, like, it says it's 38 millimeters in size. So is it a little bit maybe too small for me? Because, typically I prefer a watch that's like just 39 to 41 millimeters, but I don't think that's an issue in any way. And they've got that beautiful small seconds at the 6 o'clock, which I'm quite a big fan of. They've changed the marker as well for the pointer date and got rid of the moon shape, put in a more modern arrow design. And they've also changed the hands on it. So they've got rid of the cathedral style hands and replaced them with a very straightforward sword shape hand, which I'm still getting used to. I wasn't actually sure if I was a fan of the cathedral hands on the other models, which is interesting. Is something that kind of held me back from genuinely pursuing one. And now that they're gone, I'm not sure if I miss them. I don't think I'll miss them in much time. And it comes in around $4,100 Canadian. I think it's about like 3,500 US. So at the price point, I think it's offering something like pretty interesting. Definitely worth exploring further. What's your take on it, guys?
I think it's beautiful. I really like it. It's so subtle, but it really stands out strong to me. I think that for the dimensions, the crown really, offsets the size of the actual dimensions. I really like the dimensions, and it's definitely got cues of old vintage with the lettering, the font, the arms, and I really like the pop of the red hand. So it's super cool. I wonder about the price point. That's the major thing that would be a drawback. Because the moment that you sent me this and I pulled it up, I was like, God, that's beautiful. And I immediately started to think, well, I should get that, because I thought Oris and I thought Oris price point. And then I didn't realize that this was actually quite a bit more than your average Oris. And for the movement, for the beautiful vintage cues, it looks timeless, and that strap looks great. It kind of makes this strap on the Timex Hodinkee, no offense, I mean, kind of looks like shit comparatively. Like, this looks really, really stellar, but at $4,100, I think it's priced, a little bit at that edge where I'm going, that's Tudor range, right? Cool watch, but is it a Black Bay 58? That's my only view of it. If the price were different, I think it would be like, take my money right now. But I'm not so sure it's a take my money kind of watch. What do you think, Peter?
I think it's very cool looking. I think there's a lot of like you said, it's very subtle, but like there's a lot going on. Like when you look at the dial, like it's like it doesn't like jump at your face, but like there's like it's very beautiful. Like the color is so nice, and I really like what's going on with all the numbers. And like you said, to the small second hand on the bottom, I think it just really ties everything together. And yeah, it actually like it's weird. The strap really seems to complement it nicely. Like the strap's like a perfect kind of variation where it just kind of is. It looks really good on that watch. Kind of just makes everything pop, I find, especially with the dial. And it looks really polished and everything looks so pretty. I think it'd be very interesting to see in person. But I don't mind the size. I believe the Waterbury's right around like 38 millimeters. If I may be incorrect, but I don't mind it, to be honest. I think it's like it seems a little bit small, but once you get it on the wrist, I feel like it could definitely rock. But again, I'm not I may not be the same size as Daniel kind of thing. So there could be that too. But yeah, I definitely would give it 2 thumbs up. I don't know, like the price range is a little bit interesting because definitely a little bit more than some of the other Orises, but it's pretty nonetheless. And I mean, for what it is, I think it's worth it. It seems like there's a lot of cool stuff going on. 5 days too, it says, for power reserve. Is that what it says? That's pretty
5 days.
crazy. Wow, that's impressive.
I think the Waterbury is actually 40 millimeters. So this would be 2 millimeters shorter.
Wow.
But it does have long lugs, right? So it's actually probably suffering from the similar kind of sense that this might have. So it seems like, I don't know what the lug to lug dimensions are, but that might contribute to its overall wrist presence as well as that big crown. So to me, I think the dimensions would be fine completely for me. And I love looking at this one shot of the strap where it's got like a little bit of slight wrinkling and a little bit of it has this wear. It's like those Japanese denim jeans that are just like worn in and broken in, that it feels like it's got some history to it. So it really appeals, and that dial is so dynamic with it shifting from blue to a light blue to a black, depending on how the light hits it. So it gets a big A until I see the price. I don't know. Daniel, would you budget for this, or would you pass on it? Like, there's a lot that's in this price point now to me.
I think I would strongly consider it. There is a lot I like about it. I think the last thing that maybe we glazed over on was the domed sapphire crystal on it. Like, I think it looks incredible, and the way that it's lined up with the bezel and the case, it just really accentuates the watch nicely and kind of gives that extra depth to the dial. So the more I look at it, the more I like it. For $4,000, I think now that they've gone with the in-house movement, that does add that value, which obviously they see that, and they see that in their mind it carries a premium over some of their other models, which don't have in-house movements, but movements that are finished in-house. So I mean, Oris's finishing capabilities are quite impressive. So what they can do with a non-in-house movement is impressive, but their new in-house movements are very impressive. 5-day power reserve for under $5,000. That's quite impressive.
Here's the
So
one that would pull me away from that watch, and I know it's a little bit more. I don't know what the hell this is. IWC Spitfire, I think would be the number one that would be challenging this in my mind. Although it's a bit more expensive. No, that's not the one. But the regular IWC Spitfire with the red text on it is this one. Pilot's Watch, automatic Spitfire. It has a similar kind of vibe and that little bit of heritage cue. It's just, yeah, I mean, that this I feel like I would lean towards for that kind of a look. I don't know what that works out to be Canadian. It's CHF 5100, but yeah, cool watch. Definitely gets all my respect. And if you guys had one on the wrist, I would be super jealous. But yeah, I don't know. I there's just a lot that's in that price range, and I think if I wanted that kind of a vibe, I'd be going to the IWC Spitfire automatic. This watch is killer to me. I love that little red line of text, and that actually brings me to the future upcoming. What do I do with this ridiculous, stupid opportunity? So, as you know, I have a later 5513 Rolex Submariner that has the white gold applied numerals. So it doesn't have quite the, regular 5513s where they actually have, non-applied numerals without the gold. And so it's still not quite a pure 5513 that I was always aspiring to. And actually there's a local seller who has a 1680, which would be a date Submariner from that vintage. But then I'm going to be attending, I was just confirmed to attend San Francisco for a medical oncology conference. So out in San Francisco area is the HQ Milton shop. And I've always had this dream of walking in with, one of my watches and bringing it in, trading in on like an ungettable watch that might be accessible only at HQ Milton. And they've got like crazy collections and draw of a lot of things. If you guys were me and you could take and lay down the 5513, maybe my Kermit, maybe two of these watches, because they really aren't getting a ton of wrist play, and you wanted to get like an end game kind of vintage Rolex, what would you do it with? Because there's a lot of options here at HQ Milton. Or would you leave the collection as it is? Let's go with Daniel, so he can talk me off the ledge. You've got 2 months to talk me off the ledge before I go to the conference.
I like your collection the way it is, and I'm not sure if at this moment I would substitute one of the Rolexes for a different Rolex. I think that, unless you find something that you really, really want, something that's interesting, and, you say like end game, like you can't say that lightly. That carries a lot of weight. So like, what are like end game? We're talking like what price point for what model, and
these are
is
the
it
three.
literally an end game product, or is it something that you'll flip at a certain point?
No, I think these are like, I can't get them. I'll never get them outside of like going to a specialty shop that, in my opinion, really doesn't exist in Canada. So the three that they currently have up that seem potential for me to take the 5513 and to take the, say, Kermit in on trade would be these three. So a 1655 Explorer 2, the Steve McQueen. I wouldn't get it in the albino configuration, but this is the only one that they've got. But I'd want it with that big orange hand. I'd want it very vibrant. That's kind of like pretty cool. And actually, Peter, you've got connections with that one pawn shop, and they had one and it came and went immediately. And I was like, oh, I wish I could have. And then there's the red sub, a 1680 red sub. Unfortunately, the price has really popped on those. And then the Zenith Daytona 16520. with tritium markers. I think these 3 watches would be like, oh goddamn, I don't need to go more vintage than this. I think anything beyond these 3 is just ridiculous. Like, I don't think that I can, take 5 watches in and try to get a 6263 kind of vintage Daytona that's like almost Newman-esque kind of era, but not. I would never get a Paul Newman, but like a 6263 I was looking at is like 100 grand plus US. So I mean, this is pretty much the highest I'd be even considering going up into the market at 16520 Daytona. But is it that unique? And then there's the red sub. Is it that unique over a 5513 or a 1680, regular 1680? And then there's the 1655 that's like, oh, well, that's a pretty deep dive, like crazy nutter watch. So I don't know. Right now, I don't know if I walked in to the shop immediately, could I see myself taking 2 watches into and trading them onto one of these? I'm not sure. I feel like the 16520 Daytona would be a little bit tempting just because it's, that's a look that you'll never get back. But I think Daniel's pretty much made his point that I should clean up my shit and stop aspiring to go down the rabbit hole. But what do you think, Peter? Be the devil.
I don't know,
advocate.
like you got, that's such a hard, because like there are, like, some of them are pretty cool. Like the red sub is pretty badass. I would say one of my more favorite variations, and Zenith Daytona is also just is really special as well. So I don't but the thing is, there is like I think your collection is pretty special as and kind of has like a cool vibe going to it right now. And like if but again too, it's kind of all dependent. Like, are these watches that you could see yourself currently that you own now, like end game watches, or these things that you see one day, like trading up to something else? Because if that's the case, then fair, like maybe that would be the option. But I think the whole experience, like you're talking about, would be very cool. Like just like walking into like such a huge place like this, when like there's going to be so many freaking watches, and that's just would be like, I don't know, I think it'd just be like interesting, right? Like that'd be like once in a, not many times you could be like, oh, I did something like that. So, but again, it's all within reason. Like I think your collection's pretty special as it is right now. So that would be like a big, yeah. I'm torn. I don't really know what to say.
Here's the reason why I'm thinking it. So 5513 and Kermit, they're not getting much wrist time. They're mostly in the safety deposit box. But if I found, if I feel like there's really, in my collection, if I just had one good vintage watch, that would be good. It would be good because most of the time I tend to want to wear newer Rolex or newer watches, or like Tudor or Omega or something like that. But for like interesting occasions where I want to wear something vintage so that I can wear it to an event where like people like you guys, those who know will know, that's kind of the moment when you want to wear it, right? Or for special, like really crazy aficionado cases where it's like, I'm going to go to a car event or a watch event or something like that. So to me, it'd be really cool to have like a crazy heavy hitter vintage and then streamline it. Take the Kermit, take the 5513, shove them into one. You've got one go-to vintage watch. But there's the opposite view that you could just expand and then go get a 1680. You could have 3 watches for the price of basically what I'll end up doing if I end up getting a 16520 Daytona. I mean, there's also then the moderate Daniel view of stop fucking around and just stick with what you got, be happy with what you got. So I think Daniel's got something to say. Tell me, talk some sense into me.
The condition of the watches that you currently have is very good. Like each model is in immaculate condition. So several of the watches that you've been showing us up on here are like, this is a very, there's a perfect image for everyone who's watching. That is beaten to shit. Like that is not a good example, like that is
unpolished.
It's unpolished. We're gonna advertise it as, it's absolutely original, but I've beaten the shit out of it. So, like neglected, is that another term for a piece like that? I think, probably. So you have pieces that may not be as old. Some pieces you have are brand new. I couldn't see myself advocating for you to trade any of the pieces you have for many of the things that are currently available. Things are out of hand with prices, and people are trying to get crazy prices for things that are not in good condition, just trying to justify them as rare. But there's a big difference between rare and good condition, and something that's just absolutely torn apart looks like it should be replaced.
Yeah, fair enough. I appreciate that. That
being
said, it's lived through a war. Look at this 1655. That's how I'd want it, like with a big orange hand. It's kind of cool. Like they'll never make one like that anymore. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. That being said, I have a feeling I'm going to end up wearing a watch there and seeing what they have and seeing what my heart tells me in that moment. But if that ends up being in the context of, well, the AD locally just offered me like a, what was it? The Daytona with the meteorite dial. I think that would be a bit tempting. Anyways, perseverated on hypotheticals, but I think that's just where my mind's at. I'm going to keep an eye on the website, and we'll see where we're at in February when I go out there, and maybe Daniel can reel me in. But I think I want to jump to the car news. This is another one that I've gone down the pipeline again on. So I think there's two things. One is that I've got the Golf R coming in, and it is coming this month. So it will be arriving in the next couple of weeks. They have been arriving in Canada. There's one right here. There's a photo of lapis blue with a DSG transmission that showed up in Ontario, and this guy's collecting it on Monday. So they've been arriving. So I know mine is in Canada. I just don't know where it is, and I've been told late December. So that's exciting. But really, that's kind of like a stopgap thing, because this thing is more exciting to me. This is the Corolla GR, or GR Corolla, which is going to be building off of the GR Yaris, because we don't get the GR Yaris in North America. So the GR Corolla is rumored now on their website. It's likely going to have that turbo 3-cylinder with at least 268 horsepower, all-wheel drive, kind of homologation special, crazy rally-bred motorsport, which I think would be pretty cool. I think for the time being, though, I'm going to hold the Golf R, and then once this shows up, I'm hoping that I can maybe grab one. Or would you guys hold on to the Golf R? What do you think? You can barely see it. It's the thing in the corner there, behind the shipping containers on this photo that's on their Instagram account. Peter, would you go for this random pixelated?
I've seen some. So I haven't seen this, but I've seen the like the Oris version of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they're pretty cool. And I've heard I watched a Top Gear segment on it not too long ago, and I heard nothing but good things. So I think it would be interesting to see, because again, I really do like the Golf, but I think this would be kind of an experience nonetheless. Like for what it is, I think it sounds pretty cool. So I think I probably would end up switching.
It would be like a really cool, like, drive it all year round, and it'll still be fun, especially in the winter.
Yeah, it'd be super fun in the winter. Yeah.
I feel like Daniel's more aligned to luxury and balanced. So I'm really interested to hear his views of whether he'd stick with the Golf R. But I know that he kind of shit talked the Golf R before he knew that I would. So maybe he's not gonna go. So I have no idea where you're gonna land here.
I think that I would pick whichever one is faster.
It's gonna be the Golf R. The Golf R will be faster, but
that's my pick.
Yeah. Well, the GR Corolla is going to be like a crazy pocket rocket, right? Like you just fling it and it'll just slide and it'll be crazy. It's going to be like taking it out rallying, and it'll be probably probably less money than the Golf R. I don't know. We'll see. I randomly walked into the dealer and I was like, "Hey, GR Corolla." They're like, "What? GR 86?" And I was like, "No, I don't want the Toyota 86. I want the GR Corolla. It's building off the GR Yaris." He's like, "I don't know what that is. We just did the GR 86." I was like, "Here, just take my money, put my name on the list that you don't even exist, that you don't even have an existence." And he's like, "Okay, fine." And so I'm like number one on a list that hasn't even been built. About 2 months ago, I just told them to, or maybe a month ago, I told them to just put my name down for it. So like it doesn't hurt at this point because there's just so many stupid lists building up because everything is so delayed with production. I mean, the Golf R is here and now, so I can take that. I don't think I'll lose on it, if at all anything. So, you know, it'll get me to next season. I feel like I'll probably take the Golf R, get myself to summer, enjoy the GT2, dump the Golf R, and then next winter come maybe this, something, or maybe Civic Type R, something will be around. Or I can get another Golf R if I need, or I'll just drive my Civic, whatever. But my fleet is narrowing because we just actually sold my Mazda 3 after showing to like 10 people and having 1 million people fall through. That's a word of wisdom. Never try to privately sell any car under 10 grand with impatience, because there are so many flaky people out there. But luckily I found a solid guy who put down $1,000 deposit, and that's coming through. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know where you land. You're basically saying this, the fast car wins for you. You'd go for the Golf R.
For me, yes, but for you, it's a different story, right? Like, for me, it's the faster car wins, but I also do enjoy different driving experiences. So if this comes in at a price point where you can have the Golf R and then flip it and then have this and enjoy both of them, then I suppose the question is like, why not?
That's my
Right.
view. Yeah.
So I mean, at that point, then you can actually determine which one you like more.
Exactly. And I was thinking, you know, this thing, I see it more as a long-term owner. I could see myself driving this for decades because it would just put a smile on your face because you drive it like an asshole. Like it would just be you could fling around and not worry too much about, and just enjoy the shit out of it. Take it out off road, like just beat the piss out of it, and know that it's a Toyota and that it's a homologation special, and it's special, and it's like motorsport. And when's the last time we could say that about a Toyota? Honestly, I can't even think of anything since the prior Mark IV Supra. The current Supra doesn't do anything for me. I mean, the LSF, was it LSF? The one that was like tuned by Yamaha, the supercar by Lexus, the ISF, and the Supra where it was at, where there was the Celica GTS that was kind of cool as well. But like, you know, Toyota's back on its game in my opinion as a result of this. But I think I've gone into the hypotheticals really far into the weeds, but I think it'll be a pretty cool car. And I'm glad that they're, you know, dropping all these teasers all over their Instagram. So it's definitely happening, it seems, but they haven't made an official announcement. I just hope that they put in enough power to offset the fact that this is heavier than a GR Yaris, and it's, you know, possible 268. Maybe they'll get up to 300 horsepower. It's supposed to be the most powerful 3-cylinder until Koenigsegg puts out their 3-cylinder. I have no idea what that's going to be in, but it'll be cool. Cool car to put down $100 deposit for. I don't
Totally
feel bad at all about that. I feel worse about the fact that I put down $2,500 on a pipe dream that I'll get for ZR1. Last one that's a huge pipe dream is what happens with the next Porsche hypercar. And I really wonder about this Porsche Vision Gran Turismo launch that they just revealed here. So for Gran Turismo 7, they've got like this prototype virtual car that they've designed with, I guess, Sony. And it looks kind of interesting. It's very, what is it? Not Taycan. It was the one that we were just talking about before, not Mission R. Is it Mission R? Mission R. Yeah. So it's interesting in design. I kind of like it. And they even have some photos of it in like regular colors like this Miami blue. So I don't know whether this will end up actually being a production car. Maybe this is just kind of a harbinger of the next supercar, but it'll be pretty cool. I don't know. What do you think of the design there?
I think it's cool. I think there's two things happening where from the back you get this like from the back and the rear 3/4 angle, you get a very classic Porsche kind of design language, but it's obviously hyper modern. And then from all the other angles, it just looks something like straight out of Tron.
Why did they come up with a special bespoke helmet for it? Like this tells me that this is more than just a regular Gran Turismo kind of prototype. But there are many companies that create prototypes just for Gran Turismo. It is a big deal and marketing for them, but this seems like very heavily thought out for Porsche design language. So it makes me wonder, is this just alluding to something that's coming down? I mean, they're way overdue for hypercars and the rumors have been buzzing. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least elements of this that lead to the next GT1 or whatever their next hypercar is that follows the 918. I don't know though if this really pulls at my heartstrings if it is fully electric though. I don't know. I was watching the Formula One race today and I was just like, what the hell is the sound of these cars? I mean, it's really cool and it's great to see that it's so competitive and so many people banging up against one another. But there's something to be said about like the sound of cars and that visceral feeling. Peter, you're younger and you understand new technology. I'm an old bastard who needs things to be made out of dinosaur bones. What do you think? Is this too much of a ridiculous view, or would you actually lay down $1 million for something like this when it's going to be like another iPhone that maybe it just gets replaced in the future?
I'm personally too, like, I'm very much like I don't follow the electric phase yet. Like, I don't know if it's like, I get the point of it. Like, I understand, but there, like you said, there's something about the sound of a car and like the rawness to it and like the gears shifting and like just everything, the whole aspect of it, right? And I just think like it looks cool, and I do think like it's very interesting, but personally for me, no, I don't think if even then, like, I would way rather like get like a Carrera GT or something like that. Like that is just like, that's way more crazy in my opinion. Just like the sound of that car and things like that. Just and if you're, I don't know, it's hard to justify. Like, I understand like where the world's going, and like I think like hybrid's cool because like hybrids is a great option. Like you still get your like the both best of both worlds kind of thing. And I see like a lot of these new hybrids hypercars are crazy, like especially you see like Conan's Egg and things like that. Like they're outstanding, but I personally myself just not a full electric person yet, and even being like a little bit on the younger side, I just don't follow it. And I don't know if I guess one day maybe as things do change, I guess we will have to. But I love that there's something about the sound of a car when you're sitting in there. It's just something else, right?
Yeah, definitely. Daniel, you're in between. You're evolved and mature. You're the most mature of us. Actually, no, I think Peter is probably the most mature of us all.
Yeah, I've been devolving.
Tell us what the devolved Neanderthals are thinking nowadays.
1% Neanderthal. But I think that electric cars do have their place. To me, it's not something that I'd be interested in if it's exclusively electric either. I agree completely that, like petrol heads, it's in the name, like there's something about an engine that is interactive in a way that a battery is not.
That's what makes me happy about Porsche developing synthetic fuels. And I feel like, Peter and I went for a drive out in the GT2, which will rub in Daniel's face again. And, that's about as, synthetic or modern or futuristic as I want to get. You know, the PDK, it's cool, and it's really necessary with that amount of power and how quickly it spools up. But and it's so advanced, all the technologies, the traction, everything, the downforce, but it still has that visceral nature that pulls at your heartstrings. I've driven the Taycan, and it's super cool, super fast. It would never replace that. You know, it wouldn't replace the 430. It wouldn't replace the GT2 in my garage. It would be cool to replace a Honda Civic with, for sure. Would it replace a Golf R? I don't know. Maybe it would be a cool commuter, especially if you're in a really congested area. But I don't know if it honestly replaces a sports car for me. I think, you know, hybridizing or boosting some form of gasoline powered engine, at least as it is right now, is something to consider. And it'll be interesting to see what they do in the future. But I'm hoping that the GT3 RS is just going to be the last gasp of the best naturally aspirated. I know that they're going to be sticking with naturally aspirated for the next 10 years, likely. But, you know, how can they keep this up for the next GT2 RS? So that's what made me think this GT2 RS purchase was a good choice. You know, I'm so fortunate to have gotten it all the way up till December and then being able to drive it. And it just made me, you know, giddy. Like this thing is crazy fast, and it just pulls all your organs out and then mashes you around and rattles you and makes you remember why you're like immortal. You're not mortal when you're driving it. Like that's the way you feel. I don't know how to really convey that feeling, but you feel like Superman. And then suddenly you realize, oh shit, here's another car I might run into. But that's just my impression. I think that's the most modern I want to get. Is the current GT cars today is great, and I know that they keep on pushing the needle, but eventually we're going to reach that point where if we're going electric, I don't know if I'm all in. I see it as an augmentation, like we're getting at. I think it's something that you could add to your garage, but it's not something that I'd give up everything unless it's, you know, as a result of, you know, legislation or environmental crisis.
I think I think I think for me, a hybrid with a decent electric range is the ideal setup. So, like, you know, in the future, owning multiple cars will become less popular, also less easy. So people will be forced to compromise more so on that front and pick potentially one car, or as many people are nowadays, not picking any car and either buying into car share programs or using transit. But for me, if I can drive around in traffic in electric mode, and then when I have open space to actually change gears, put it into just full power mode, and maybe just even if there's no stick shift, we're just going to say paddle shifters. There's something satisfying about actually changing gears and actually syncing up the right power band and actually putting the power down yourself instead of just, you know, gassing it with one gear, maybe two gears, depending on the transmission you have set up in an electric car. So for me, a hybrid, so I can, have, like as Peter said, so I can basically have the best of both worlds. Shift gears when I want to, have fun, make some noise, and then when you're stuck in traffic, what's the point in burning gas? Just drive along in electric mode and wait until you have your next chance to enjoy the beautiful sound.
Definitely. So let's put it all to a vote. Who's putting their $1 million down for a Gran Turismo Vision hypothetical hypercar? Anyone putting up their hand? No, I think that's a nay on all fronts. Although I'd be really tempted if I were offered one.
Three thumbs down.
GR Corolla versus Golf R. I'm going GR Corolla with a bridge from Golf R. That's my plan, unless I fall in love with the Golf R, which I don't think is likely to happen from what I've heard about the haptic issues in the interior. But the driving dynamics are supposed to be quite good. Plus, it's a Volkswagen.
Support that.
So I think it's great while you're in warranty, but I don't know how much I want to own it for 10 years. I mean, great quality until that's just my impression. So
There's no new car right now that I think I want to own for 10 years. I think I'll just put that out there.
really, that's interesting. Nothing.
I don't know.
Not
Maybe the GT4 RS.
That's what I was about to say. GT4 RS. I felt like that's a definite for you.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a very possible thing for me too. I think a GR Corolla would be really cool to drive for 5 years outside of warranty. I wouldn't flinch. It'd be totally fine with me.
Oh yeah.
All right. So Golf R, it's coming. Maybe next episode we'll have updates. Maybe the following one. I'm really a pain in the ass of the dealer, and I've immediately, as soon as I saw this, sent an email to my dealer and I was like, "Where's my shit? My shit should be here." All right, HQ Milton. My trip to San Francisco in February. We're gonna have to have an update discussion before I go, and Daniel will try to sober me up before I go, before I unload everything. But come on, look at this. This thing is mint 16520. Zenith movement. They don't make Rolexes like this ever anymore with the aluminium bezel. Come on. And then there's a USHAT on the red. I don't think that we can do that. And then 1655, I think, is, very nuanced. So I feel like Daniel's going to be a hard no on the HQ Milton move, but we'll see. We'll see what's going on there. IWC Spitfire versus Oris. I'm going to put it to those two. Or Tudor 58. Those three. Tudor 58, Spitfire, or Oris. Big pointy. Is it just because it says big pointer? Is that you just want to be the big pointer?
There is a price difference there, though. It's still like, what, $1,000, right?
But Tudor 58, I think, is around 4,500. So from my perspective, the two are the same. And
I think like the watch is going after two different groups of people.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that this has a viewing case back. That's a selling point for me because I like staring at the dial of my watch, and I like that this chronograph has the small second sub dial, so it's more dials to look at, more things to interact with. And when you have that viewing case back, I think that alone adds some value depending on the watch itself. So for this, it's like it's not a Patek Philippe, but it's still very interesting to look at. So,
but a Grand Seiko SBG W231, that very simple dial with a viewing case back to a masterpiece. To me, I'd prefer that. For if we're talking case, I totally get that that's a different kind of category. It's much more formal, restrained, and simple watch. But if you want to look at the movement, that's the one that I'd want with a case back. Plus a hand wound movement. Grand Seiko, to me, if you wanted those criteria met, I'd go for that. And I think I think that's probably more aligned to the Spitfire and this Oris. The Grand Seiko SBG W231 is close to these two, where I'd say I go Grand Seiko from my perspective. I think this is a Toyota versus Volkswagen perspective. I have a lot of respect for Oris, and this is great that this is their in-house movement, but we're talking a Toyota movement that is a work of art. It's a Lexus LFA, Yamaha tuned, like, just come on. It's a work of art for those who know.
That's ironic. That's backwards. So you're comparing the Swiss watch to a Japanese car, and the Japanese watch to a higher quality Swiss product.
No, I'm saying that the SPGW 231 movement is like the Lexus LFA, from the movement aspect, from the engine perspective. Obviously, the design is totally different. This is really restrained. But to me, at the same, I guess it is $1,000 more, isn't it?
$1,500. You could also get an SKX for that.
Yeah, and overpriced
Couple.
SKX nowadays. You could get a Timex Hodinkee. You could get like a few of these plus that Oris.
I don't know. I think I like the Oris better.
It's nice
I agree.
that we have so many options. This is a very
Yeah.
finicky and troublesome price range, right?
Mhm.
Where I always just get the Tudor, and that's the problem. Tudor is just such a heavy hitter in this price point for me, and they have
It's
so
difficult.
many that I want. The 58 in regular black, the 58 in blue, the new, the new Marine Nationale, and then the Chrono. Like they're all in this price range where I'm like, how can I even consider anything else? And the only one slightly tempting me outside of that is just the Grand Seiko, and that's only because it's like, well, when's the Tudor ever going to come? Because the wait list. To me, this always ends up being under the glass. Well, it's not always, but oftentimes is very gettable. And I feel like I need to have it in my collection at some point. It's just such a cool watch, and this is more timeless to me than a Datejust. I'm talking about the Grand Seiko SPGW 231, but yeah. We've gone on a complete different tangent. Clearly, Daniel wants to fuck the Oris big pointer because he just wants to have a big pointer name. Peter, are you going big pointer or are you going little pointer with me?
I like it, honestly. Like I'm kind of like, I don't know. I'm like you said, like Tudor's a heavy hitter in that price range, right? So like there's a lot like that you could get, but I just like I think there's a lot going on in that watch that like I think it's just like very pretty and very unique, and there's like, yeah, if like I'm like tonight I feel very torn with all my decisions. I feel like I can't make up a decision, but
I think it's with blue. You have a problem with blue watches.
I know I do. Yes, that's why as soon as I see blue, I'm like, I need it. But I don't know. I would probably say yes. I'm like, I'll give it one thumb up because I don't know what I'm doing with my other thumb. So it's
Up your thumb.
yeah.
You could be like Steve and wear the Oris on one wrist and wear the Tudor on the other.
Yeah, the double
With your thumb up your ass. In the meantime, I'm putting the right wrister back in the box while I figure out what its disposition is. I feel like it's going to my grandfather for Christmas.
Nice.
I think it's
nice
going to the Timex queue. The problem is that he's going to bitch about the fact that it's automatic and that it'll need winding, but and it'll be difficult to put on the wrist. But we'll see. At least he'll appreciate the sentiment. But yeah. So all in all, I think the only conclusion that we can come to is that Daniel loves Oris. He doesn't like me going crazy on the vintage HQ Milton website. I'm going to go for the GR Corolla when it comes. I really don't give a shit. Come hell or high water. I think I'm going to purge that Golf R once it comes around. I think it's going to be a super cool car. But I'm excited to see what the Golf R is for short-term ownership. I think it'd be super cool to have over the winter. But yeah. Thanks again, boys. Another great episode of me going down tangent, Phil. Thanks again for joining another long, difficult journal of Steve's overprivileged experiences with watches and cars. And thanks for joining me, boys, on the journey. With that, thanks for joining the Three Aficionados. Have a good night. We'll see you on the other end of Hanukkah, and Daniel will share his menorah with us next time. Thank you. Have a good one. See ya.